All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are still talking about what's inside atoms, those subatomic particles. And our learning objectives are to break down the atom and describe the subatomic particles by listing their location, their charge, their mass, and why they are important. So, inside of an atom, there are three subatomic particles, three things that we find. And that word subatomic just means smaller than an atom. And these particles are the ones that were observed in those different experiments. And they are protons, neutrons, and electrons. We're going to go through each of these one at a time and talk about what they're about. Let's start with the proton. The proton is what Rutherford was observing in the gold foil experiment. And he found that positive alpha particles were being repelled by something inside the nucleus, and that meant it must be positive as well. And so these protons are found inside the nucleus, and they're said to have a positive charge. And we're going to use a plus sign as short for positive. So this is positive, this is positive. These are protons. And protons, when we talk about atoms, are actually big for the atom. I mean, they are given a mass unit of 1 atomic mass unit. And so this means they contribute to the mass of the atom. And the reason protons are important is that protons help me identify the element that that atom is. The number of protons tells me what element it is. So this one has 2 protons. That defines it as a helium atom. The second subatomic particle I want to talk about is the electron. And the electron is what J.J. Thomson was observing in the cathode ray experiment. And electrons are found outside of the nucleus. They have a negative charge. We know this because they were attracted to that positive electrical pole. And they are much smaller than a proton. They are so small compared to a proton that they are assigned 0 atomic mass units. And the reason electrons are important is that they determine the chemical reactivity of the atom, how that atom behaves in the presence of other atoms. Now, if an atom is neutral, that means the number of positives and the number of negatives is the same. So typically for normal atoms, number of positives, 2 protons, is equal to the number of negatives, 2 electrons. But atoms can gain or lose these electrons. And when that happens, we call the new atom an ion. And we'll talk about that more in future videos and lessons. Now, my last subatomic particle is the neutron. The neutron was the one most recently discovered, and it is found inside the nucleus, but it doesn't have a charge. It is neutral. So we are not going to write any symbols. Maybe you'll see a 0 every now and then to say no charge. However, they are about the size of a proton, so they do have a mass, so they do add to the mass of an atom, and it's said to have 1 atomic mass unit as well. Now, neutrons are important because they stabilize the nucleus. These positive charges want to repel, and the neutrons act as little spacers. Now, the other thing is that atoms can actually have different amounts of neutrons. They can gain or lose neutrons, and when that happens, they're called isotopes. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So, the atom has protons that are positive, electrons that are negative, and neutrons that are neutral. And these are my subatomic particles.